It's a big one this week on CBS. The 6-3 Buccaneers visit the 6-3 Bills in a matchup with major playoff implications. You got Baker Mayfield leading an injury-thin Tampa offense against a Buffalo defense that's still trying to rebound from recent struggles. Both teams look to bounce back and stay in the AFC and the NFC playoff hunt. That's all happening Sunday on CBS. And here to break it all down, we got to welcome in two of the sharpest minds in football, Pete Prisco and Logan Ryan. Good to see the two of you. We got to start with the Bills just reeling after that inexplicable Week 10 loss to the Dolphins, a game where mistakes and missed tackles piled up late. Pete, how does Buffalo regroup here, and how do they get back on track this week?
Well, I'll give them a little bit of advice. It's time to start throwing the football on early downs. Enough of this. I mean, my gosh, they're last in the league throwing the football on early downs when the score is tied. So you gotta start throwing it on early downs. They just gotta start giving Josh Allen more on his plate. I think the run game is nice, and Cook's a good player, and they got a physical offensive line, and I get it. But you got to start getting chunk plays in the passing game, and that might happen this week. It'll get a little help back because it looks like Josh Palmer's going to go. The flip side of that is Dalton Kincaid's probably not going to go. So you get a guy on the outside who can give you something down the field because they've been getting nothing down the field. And the injuries on the other side of the ball have really mounted up. They're going to start getting guys back there as well. So I do think that health has been an issue, but also I think game planning's been an issue, and it's time to turn Josh Allen free.
Buffalo's taking their lumps this season, and hopefully they're learning from this now, and they can take these lessons and it carries forward to have a stronger finish and a stronger playoff push than years prior. Look, Josh Allen with the giveaways hasn't played perfect this year. He hasn't played at the unbelievable MVP level we've expected from him the last few seasons. And it shows you that the defense cannot continue to be saved by Josh Allen. So they got to come together, be more of a team. They got to run the ball through James Cook. Josh Allen's got to take care of the football. And then defensively, I mean, look, you can't win a Super Bowl with that. You just cannot win a Super Bowl with that type of rush defense. It does not work. That's not the defense that Kansas City has all the years they're winning the Super Bowl. It's not the rush defense New England had. Although they have the Hall of Fame quarterback, although they have Mahomes, and although I've had Tom Brady on my side, our rush defense wasn't last in the league at any point. So to me, this is a team that's used to be carried by an MVP every single year. And I've been in that situation. I got carried by Tom Brady a lot of my career through those Lombardis, but we were also ranked like 1 or 2 in rush defense in the NFL. So you got to step up defensively. Josh Allen's got to take care of the ball, but they show that they're human this year, and they got to learn from this quickly in order to have a stronger finish to the season.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, they thought that they were going to be the class of the division, but as you said, they are showing some humanity this season. Let's talk about something that you touched on, Pete. Dalton Kincaid, doubtful for Week 11 with a hamstring injury, major loss, obviously, for Buffalo's passing game. He has been Josh Allen's second leading receiver. So, Logan, how does this offense adjust without one of their most reliable weapons?
I think you got to go through James Cook. He is such a good back, and I know it's the Josh Allen show. I know Pete wants to let him loose. I think you got to stick with the run game. Josh, take care of the football. I love Khalil Shakir. I love him in the slot, his ability to be catch contested balls and be a reliable target. But they really got to open up this pass offense. I mean, Keon Coleman, they got to find a receiver on the edge that can stretch the field. They just don't have that. That's what Josh Palmer, his importance will be when he gets back. I know the tight end's hurt, but you got to find people to stretch for the big shots down the field off of the run game. I would like them to establish the run, throw the ball downfield. Obviously, Keon Coleman doesn't create the most separation, but Josh Palmer, Pete's probably going to allude to, is going to be a key piece of trying to stretch the field vertically for the Bills.
Yeah, and look, the bottom line is when I was there in the summer and talked to Joe Brady and talked to Josh Allen, they all said, well, we really don't need a number 1 wide receiver. We're going to spread the ball around. We'll still get our chunk plays in the passing game. It hadn't worked out, in large part because I don't like the way they've been calling the game. And at some point, you got to let him loose on first down, not on second down, not on third down, on first down. You mentioned Keon Coleman. Look, he doesn't run by anybody, but he can catch some 50-50 balls, throw them up to him on the outside, take some chances. And I think that's going to be the difference. You know, you mentioned, look, if you can't stop the run, That's a death blow to any team in the league, particularly the way they do it. Well, if that's going to be the case, and they are getting some guys back on defense. TJ Sanders, the rookie's coming back. His window has been opened up this week on a defensive tackle. That'll help them. But the bottom line is if you're going to get run on, you better score points, because the best thing to do against a team that's going to run on you is get them out of it by taking a lead and going up 14. They won't run it as much.
Well, speaking of scoring points, it's a 2018 draft class duel. Josh Allen, dual threat explosiveness against Baker Mayfield's efficiency and ball security. They had some things to say about each other this week. Let's take a listen.
I have to walkie-talkie to him because he's so damn tall, so I can't really have a face-to-face conversation with him. But, you know, in Buffalo, it's cold, it's rainy. Even though he's 6'10", his hands are small, so he better wear his gloves.
That's crazy.
What's the relationship like with Baker?
Baker wears 2 gloves golfing, so he's that type of guy.
That is some friendly banter between the two friends, and really phenomenal quarterbacks this year and in years past. So, Pete, I'm going to come to you on this one. Who has the edge in this matchup, and what really could decide it?
Well, I mean, look, Baker Mayfield's had a good year, but he had a bad game last week. There were chances for him, and he didn't throw the football very well. And I think this is a tough ask to go out on the road against a team that's wounded. I mean, when you lose a game like you did to Miami, and you're supposed to win that game, your focus will get back quickly. And I think that's going to make it tough on Baker Mayfield. He still doesn't have his whole complement of weapons. I mean, you know, Godwin was on the practice field doing something this week. That's progress. Mike Evans won't be back probably until late in the season. And then you look at that team, and they're limited in what they can do throwing the football. So my edge is to Josh Allen in this game, only if they set him free.
Yeah, I mean, look at that graphic. Can we throw that back up? It's unbelievable what Baker Mayfield's had to deal with. I mean, of course production's going to dip. Look at the bottom. Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, McMillan. All of them have not played through this last stretch where he was at an MVP rate. So it's really hard to judge Baker Mayfield and his play when he's throwing to rookie wide receivers, expecting to get open against top corners consistently. Look, Josh Allen has more of his weapons. Although Kincaid is out, Josh Allen has more of his weapons who he's practiced with. But I would say, you know, going against both of these guys, this is a massive game for both locker rooms. Because if you win it, you're back, you figured it out, you needed this one. And if you lose this one, both what they're coming off of the last few weeks, you know, Baker said he wasn't happy how the offense played prior to the game. They didn't play that great. And obviously Josh Allen coming off that loss to Miami. So if they both lose 2 straight here, it's completely 2 different locker rooms at the end of this one.
So a pivotal game for both of these squads. I will say there's almost no one I want in a 2-minute drill this year than Baker Mayfield. Outside of last week, he's been phenomenal, but I do give the edge to Josh Allen. The Bucs, they're getting a boost. Maybe running back Bucky Irving returned to practice for the first time since week 4. Logan, if he is cleared to play, how much could his speed and his versatility change the Bucs offense against Buffalo?
It would be massive. It would honestly be massive. Bucky Irving obviously took the league by storm last year. I feel like he was everyone's favorite back. I know what Saquon and them did, but he kind of was the most surprising back with his success. And I think him and Rachaad White are a great 2-back system. I know they want to run the ball, but also you're able to put both backs in the backfield, do different things with Bucky Irving, and the speed. The speed's the biggest thing that they're missing there. Like I said, they're relying on 2 rookie wide receivers. Abuka's been amazing, but he's had tough duty going against Gonzalez. And although he did great, it's a lot to ask from a rookie wide receiver. Then Tez Johnson has done his part. But if you bring a Bucky Irving back, now you got a whole nother level of explosions. This is a huge key part to the Bucs is their injuries and their health. And Bucky Irving is one of the biggest stars they're waiting to return.
Yeah, we always talk about the wide receiver injuries. I mean, they still haven't had the offensive line together all year. And Gedeke is back now at right tackle, but now you see Bredesen is down at left guard. And so they've had guys in and out moving around. I think until they get those guys all settled, and eventually they're going to get there, they're not going to get Mark back at right guard, but they're going to get settled at the other 4 spots. I think they'll start running the ball better when you get that going, and getting Irvin gives them the real power back. You know, Rachaad White has a tendency to dance in the hole a little too much. I think Bucky Irvin's a harder runner, and I think they need that going forward, particularly when they get to the playoffs.
All right, Logan, you said this is a pivotal game for both locker rooms, and nobody wants to go down losing 2 in a row. So I got to ask you, who comes out on top?
This is tough. This is a coin flip for me, honestly. It's whoever has the ball last. I mean, this is going to be a great game. Both the coaches need it. Both the locker rooms need this for morale. They both have high expectations going into this season. I would be, honestly, this is a pick-em for me. I would honestly be shocked if Josh Allen and the Bills drop 2 in a row just because of Josh Allen. But if Baker Mayfield has the ball last, I wouldn't be surprised. But for the sake of the question right now and the health of the Bucs, I'm going to have to pick the Bills.
All right, so Logan go with the Bills here. And Pete, as you know, good teams win, great teams cover. Line's 5.5 favoring the Bills. Can they cover?
Yeah, I think they can. I think this is a bad spot for the Bucs because, look, the Bucs are the class of their division, and nobody's catching the Bucs. Even if they lose this game, none of those other teams are catching the Bucs. But in the other division, the Bills need this game in the worst way, and I think that's going to matter. You're at home. They need the game more. I think they win the game, and I also think they cover that number.
Good stuff from the two of you. Thank you to Logan and to Pete. We appreciate your time. We will see what happens in this pivotal matchup this weekend. Here's a look at what's going on CBS. Well, it's that one at 1 Eastern. The Buccaneers taking on the Bills, Bengals, Steelers, Chargers, and Jags. And then at 4:25, a big one in the AFC West. The Chiefs at the Broncos, Ravens at Browns. All of these games locally on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Back here on CBS Sports HQ, we got Bucs Bills on tap on CBS for Week 11. Both teams looking to get right. The Bills coming off just a disaster performance in Miami. Seems like Buffalo cannot stop the run to save their life. Buffalo looking up at the Patriots in the division, and on the flip side, the Bucs coming off a loss to the said Patriots team. Regardless, the Bucs still have a decent lead in the NFC South, but the 1 seed in the NFC kind of slipping away from Tampa Bay. Bucs Bills on Sunday on CBS at 1 p.m. Eastern. And our very own Evan Washburn is going to be on the sidelines for this one, Bucs Bills, and you're going to be very warm, trying to stay warm, Evan. We'll get to that in just a moment. I mentioned the Bills game. I was there, and I have the Miami Dolphins touchdown jingle stuck in my head because I was not anticipating hearing it so many times, Evan. But what is your concern level with the Bills after that game? What are you more concerned about, the lack of passing game or not being able to stop the run, or both?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's plenty to choose from. I would say if we're going to really get into it, my level of concern 1 to 10 is probably hovering around between a 6 and a 7. So let's say 6.5. That was embarrassing to lose in that way to that team when they're in a position to keep pace with the New England Patriots, who are playing up the road against Tampa. I think, to me, it really could be viewed as a letdown game after what they did against Kansas City a week prior. But there are concerns on both sides of the ball. And as much as we've talked about, we'll talk about the passing game not being what it needs to be offensively for the Buffalo Bills, I really think it's defensively where there's no real answer because the issue is health. And players and coaches hate using injuries as an excuse, but I keep going back to it may not be an excuse, but it's an explanation as to why they've struggled the way they have. And you have the graphic right here. Against the run, they've really struggled, and that's due in large part to the fact that their defensive front has been ravaged by injuries. So if you can't win the line of scrimmage, then offensive linemen are getting up on your linebackers. Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard have not played up to their standard. They've been injured. They've missed games this year, and their back end's been hit too. So it's a team that is feeling the effects of all the expectations that they had going into the season. They're 2-3 in their last 5. But the last thing I'll mention, and I need to be reminded of this today, if you think back 2 years ago, Jacqueline, the season 2023, this Bills team was 5-5 going into Week 11. They fired Ken Dorsey as their offensive coordinator, and they went on to win 6 out of their last 7. They lost to Kansas City in the divisional round. Now, the environment around them is different because of what New England's doing, but I think the panic level at that point was a lot higher than it is right now at 6-3.
Yeah, when Josh Allen is your quarterback and you have teams that have experience in the playoffs, down the stretch, they find ways to win. The Bucs are also trying to get right, and Baker Mayfield was asked after that loss to the Patriots, what is missing specifically on offense here? And Baker said a killer instinct. That's what they need, and they need to fix that. before this game. So what does he mean by that, and how much of a killer instinct can you make come to fruition in just a week before you face the Buffalo Bills?
One of the things I love about Baker Mayfield is that he is not afraid to sort of project his feelings about where he and the team stand publicly, because I think he recognizes it's a great way to speak to his locker room, and he's built that trust and equity to be able to do so. And I think the killer instinct, Jacqueline, speaks to the attention to detail on the practice field, because this team, like Buffalo, but I would say more so on the offensive side of the ball, is lacking some of their A-list players. Mike Evans, we know, is on IR. Chris Godwin's out right now. Bucky Irving out. So you have to, when you're down, let's call it a Hall of Famer and 2 Pro Bowl caliber players, your margin for error shrinks dramatically. So you can't have missed assignments. You have to play closer to perfect. And that's where I think Baker was speaking to the lack of edge and focus on the little things, and that in a lot of ways is having that killer instinct that we're going to gain that extra yard. We're going to make sure everything's done exactly as it's drawn up and as it's supposed to be done going into a game against a high-quality opponent in the Patriots. So I think they're going to bring that level of focus and hopefully a little bit more health on their side going into this one. Chris Godwin was limited in practice, albeit a walkthrough on Wednesday. We'll see what he was able to do today. Same for Bucky Irving. If they can get one, or if both of those guys are back, that would be huge in terms of helping Baker kind of build that killer instinct within the group.
Yeah, and to your point, we just saw it there on the graphic, the Bucs sitting at 1-2 with all of those guys not playing in that stretch. Evan, we touched on this a little bit at the start of it. The weather is not going to be ideal, but I mean, it's November, it's Buffalo. We're talking 40s, we're talking rain, we're talking some wind, all the things. I know the narrative exists for other Florida teams, i.e. the Miami Dolphins, about performing well in these sorts of conditions. Do you think the Bills have an upper hand? Obviously, they're at home, but with the Buccaneers facing these types of conditions?
Wow, that 21-degree real feel just really hit me in my core. I wasn't really thinking of it in that way, but when you have gusting winds of 40 and it's 40 degrees, yeah, it's going to feel pretty cold. I do think it gives a little bit of an edge. The only thing working against Buffalo in that regard when it comes to Tampa coming from Florida up to, let's call it Western New York, the fact that Baker played in Cleveland, he's got plenty of experience in these conditions. Their best wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka, played 5 years at Ohio State, so he's used to this. The core most important players for this Bucs squad are ones that are very familiar and, dare I say, comfortable in challenging conditions. So I don't think it necessarily gives the edge that maybe it would if it was the Dolphins coming up to play the Bills in those conditions. But look, when it's windy and it's wet, the passing game does get impacted, even for Josh Allen, even for a strong-arm Baker Mayfield. So that's where the ground game for both these teams, both defensively stopping it and then offensively leaning on it, will be so impactful. And that's where Buffalo, despite all the struggles the last 6 weeks, they have been great. James Cook has been one of the best running backs in the league, and they have the best running offense in the NFL, at least at this point in the season.
Evan, you mentioned Emeka Egbuka, and he's played in Ohio and knows these conditions well, and he's part of your matchup to watch here, him going up against these Bills corners.
I love watching him play. I think he's been the best offensive rookie this season. He doesn't have necessarily this blazing speed or this explosive athleticism that just jumps off the screen like a Tyreek Hill, to use one extreme. But he is so savvy and so good as a route runner. He seems to always be able to get open. And you think about it, Jacqueline, what's been thrust on his young shoulders because of the Mike Evans injury, because of Chris Godwin out. And then his matchup against this Bills secondary, specifically their corner group, will be one to watch, because that's a spot that's been hit by injury, like so many spots on this defense for Buffalo. Christian Benford missed the Miami game with a groin injury. It appears like he's tracking to be back available. He's their top corner. But if he can't go, or he's not 100%, and they look to put the rookie Maxwell Harrison on to Ibuka. That's a great matchup of two first-year players. And you saw it. You said you were at the game in Miami. Hairston had moments where he looked great, had an interception, but he also had a tough time sticking with Jalen Waddle. And while Ibuka doesn't have that type of speed, as we touched on, he's just as impactful as a pass catcher and route runner. So that's one area, again, in the conditions that we should keep our eye on.
Evan, I know you'll brave the conditions well. We wish you luck, my friend. Stay warm for the Bucs and the Bills on CBS in that 1 p.m. Eastern time slate. Tommy, the trash talking's already going on. You know, Baker Mayfield was saying he's got to use a walkie-talkie to talk up and look up to Josh Allen, that he better wear gloves because his hands.
We love that.
Yeah, a little trash talk, friendly trash talk. We love it. All going down Sunday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.